Hey guys, on request today a tutorial about our intro sound, or sound-freqs awesome intro tune to our videos, which is a sound, which is actually a couple of sounds combined, and this is the whole file that I made it from. So we hear some metal sounds in there, we hear some bass, we hear a little bit of reverb, and this was all done in Alchemy. And here we have Alchemy, and to do that I loaded a sound source, a different sound source in these 4 oscillators. So the first one, A, has coins, the second one has a triangle, just a waveform, then a square and another square waveform. And so the metallic sound like thing that is oscillator A, if we solo that, we get this. And to be honest, this is actually a fairly complicated sound using a lot of LFOs, a lot of MSEGs, at least 13. And besides that, Alchemy is not, you cannot buy it anymore because the company is no longer with us. But this was for me the main way to create that sound, and I'm going to show you another way in a minute. But first I'll show you how it works inside here, because there are other synthesizers that do similar things where you can try to recreate this if you know kind of the approach. So the main approach is to load 4 different sounds, and then we can morph between these sources. We have these knobs here, X and Y, and I can map that to this morph square. And so if I'm in the upper left corner, it will play this coins oscillator, and the upper right it will play the triangle, and then this is oscillator C, and this is oscillator D. So this way I can easily morph between my 4 sources. And then I have other knobs here that can alter these knobs. So everything with a yellow arc around it, which is a lot, is controlled by some other knob. And most of them are these kind of knobs that control the speed of LFOs, the width of a bandpass filter. And these are then mapped again to these morph squares, where I can, with one movement, control multiple knobs at the same time. So this is very similar to the macro controls in Massive, except that you have now one other control that can morph those macros again. So Alchemy is a pretty crazy synthesizer, and this just shows that. But once you've set it up, which takes a few takes a few minutes, I would say it took me like an hour or more, but then you can easily automate this to get your crazy morph sounds. Like that. We're not gonna do that right now, so I'm gonna show you a different way to do this, but then just in the arrangement window. And it might not look that exciting, but I think we can achieve very similar or even the same results if we just take that Alchemy-like approach. So first we heard this metal-like sound here. We need something like that. So I did a search in my browser, searching for ratchet, which is sort of a rattle, but I can also just search for metal, and I have a lot of sample packs, and this is also searching my native instrument libraries. So I found this one, which is a absinthe sample. So if you have absinthe, you're probably gonna be able to find this as well. So if I search it again, we can see that it's this one, and it's in the native instruments absinthe folder. So that's good. I think we all have this, and it sounds like this. So it's pretty close. It's pretty useful for us. That's one thing that we need. Another thing that we need is a bass sound. So we should just make that one, I think. And I have ES2 here, but this is going to be a very simple bass sound, so everything applies to other synthesizers as well. First I'm going to set this to legato. I'm going to set it to unison, so we have 8 voices, which makes it sound already a little bit fat. Then we can set them a little bit lower. And let's choose a triangle wave here, a pulse. And what should we do? Another pulse. And then we do a bit of detuning. So if you're not familiar with this synth, you can do this just as easily in Massive. So now we have sort of a fat, like a fat morphing bass sound. This is the filter blend, also the same as in Massive. I'm gonna put the filters in parallel. So now I use 2 filters, this one, which is a bandpass. And I'm gonna set the resonance very high. And it uses this other filter, which is a low pass. So these 2 knobs, these 2 cutoff knobs are of interest for me. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna map those, cutoff 1 and 2, to, let's say, my mod wheel. So now my mod wheel on my keyboard controls the filter cutoff. So these can be down because I'm gonna control them with the mod wheel anyway. Now I don't have a keyboard with a mod wheel. Well, I do, but it's on the other side of the room and I don't feel like walking that far. So what I can do to avoid my little mod wheel problem is I can go over to my MIDI editor, my MIDI roll, and I can say view, MIDI draw, and there we have somewhere a modulation knob. So again, view, MIDI draw, modulation. This one is 1.1, which is actually the same CC number as a mod wheel. So now this automation lane is gonna be my filter cutoff. So first we need a MIDI note, of course. C is fine. And we're gonna make sort of a rising bass sound. Like that. Because remember, we wanted to make a sound similar to this one right here. Yeah, something like that. So we need our rising bass. I'm gonna tweak the filter a little bit to give it sort of a click at the beginning where the filter is open, then it closes a little bit, and then it opens up again. Alright, and I think I'm also gonna go back into the synthesizer for a second and match the map the pitch to, let's say, an envelope, so we get a quick pitch drop. That always gives it a little bit more power. Let's use a little bit of chorus here. You can try some distortion, but this is often pretty extreme. No, I like that, yeah. Just trying some different waves and stuff. So this fancy looking triangle is just the mix between these 3 oscillators. I'm gonna use a little bit more detuning, and then I think I'm gonna settle with this for the bass sound. Yeah, that's fine for me. Then we're gonna work on the other sound, the sort of metallic sound. We have our absinthe sample here, and it's fine, but it's a little bit fast, so the rattles are not, I can't hear them individually very well. So I want to bounce this as a new audio file. I hit Control B for that on the Mac. And I want to do this because I don't want to destroy my absinthe samples. I don't want to load factory presets in absinthe and then think, hey, what, this sounds totally messed up. Well, that was because I changed that audio file. So I want to make a new audio file of this, and then I deleted the old one. And now I can do with this whatever I want. So I'm gonna open my tempo pitch view. What's that called? It's this thingy here at the top. And we can choose between automatic, monophonic, slicing, rhythmic, flex pitch, speed, and tempo foam. So flex pitch you're probably familiar with. That's the one that shows you the MIDI notes, provided that it can hear a pitch, which it doesn't in this sound. And this is meant to tune your audio file, but I'm going to use the speed, and this just slows down our audio file as soon as we start dragging it. And that was exactly what we wanted, because we wanted to hear all these little nice clicks individually. So that's more like it. They're also getting a lot lower, of course. So let's find a perfect I like that. Let's just bounce a couple of versions. So we can take this one, make a new audio file of it, and then we can try maybe the tempo phone effect. It's also not too shabby. Even slower maybe. And with this one we can also mess around with the grain size. So this is actually a granular synthesizer, which is exactly what Alchemy is using to play back samples. Okay, I like this. I'm gonna bounce that as well. So we're creating a lot of files here, but that's all right. And then we can try. I'm gonna try the speed again, but then a little bit less extreme, maybe like this. Yep, I like that. So we have our bass that I'm gonna make a little bit longer, and then also bounce to audio. Because the advantage with audio is that you can easily reverse it and cut it in different pieces and stuff like that. So I'm gonna add a few notes in here. We have a G here. I can add a C here. And then give it some glide, maybe, so that it glides towards those notes. I hope I'm not moving too fast, by the way, but there's just a lot to cover. So let's check this out. That's cool. It can be a little bit more extreme. And some fast pitch rise here. And another G. Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna choose another LFO just for the cutoff, so that I can have a little bit more movement right there. So the source is my filters. Source, oh sorry, the target is my filters, of course, and the source is my LFO1, which is this one. So this is the speed of that LFO, and here we can choose a wave. It's now set to triangle, which is fine for me. I'm happy with that. Yeah, and let me just modulate this rate just in the automation. So I meant to say automate. So now we have a nice little bit of dubstep-ish thing going on, which is almost old school already. We can do that, and let's try it again with a different rate. So we have a bit of variation going on. Let's bounce that as well. And now we can delete our source sound, keep things nice and tidy. And let's choose one of these and check out one of the ratchets. Let's pick that one for now. Mute all the other stuff. So let's just see how these two sound together. Okay, that's nice. It's a little bit chaotic, but we can work with that. Let's try a little bit of a different ratchet. Yeah, I like this one more. So what I want to do with this metallic sound, there's not a lot of lows, but you can see this sort of curve here. I definitely do not want any lows. So just to be double sure, I'm gonna EQ this with a high pass, and I drag it fairly high at 850. Just to clean out all of the bottom of the sound. And then what I'm gonna do is, I don't know if Logic has a tool for this. I'm sure it has, but I don't know about it. But I want to use an like an attacker, a transient designer. I know Native Instrument has one, and this Alloy has one. I'm just gonna boost the attack of the sound and drag down the sustain. So the sound will get a lot louder, but it will also be a little bit more snappy. So that's the difference. It sounds a lot sharper. And then I'm gonna do another fairly illegal thing, which is boosting a lot on my equalizer, which is normally not a very good idea, but since we're messing with sounds anyway, we're not recording nice guitar parts, I think we can do this. I think we're allowed to do this. So I'm boosting 6 dB there, and just to make it a little bit brighter. That's cool. And then revisit our bass sound, this one. And I'm gonna open another filter on top of that. I'm gonna choose Volcano for that, but you can just as easily use a Logic filter. I'm using Volcano because I like the different filter types. This raw one, for example, is very cool. It has a sort of an edge to it. So I'm gonna modulate this cutoff like that. And then we can make it a little bit nicer. So I want to make sort of a fade up in this sound. Okay, and then together with this one. And now what I want to do, because the most difficult thing, and Alchemy is great for that, but the most difficult thing is to get these sounding like one sound. You don't want them to necessarily sound like a bass and some sort of clicks on top. You want to make it one, and there are different ways to do this. One of my favorite ways is to send them both to one bus. So now we're having the, I'm gonna choose 30. Now we're having the huge advantage that we can process this file as one. And that means that all our filters, all our equalizers, all our compression will treat this as one file, since we're processing it on the bus. So first I can quickly EQ this a little bit. Take out a bit there. And we can also filter it like this. So let's choose that same filter again, and choose the filter cutoff, filter 1 frequency, And now because they rise and fall down in pitch together, it sounds a lot more like one sound. So this one, I'm just going to be very quick and random here, so you get the idea, like that. And maybe we can make this filter not that full intensity, but set the mix of the filter a little bit down, so we get sort of the vibe of that movement, but we don't want to filter the whole sound away, so just a little bit of movement. And I changed it to a bandpass. I like that. So another thing we can do here to make it a little bit sound like one is we can use a reverb, and I'll just choose a Logic reverb for that. Okay, I like that. And then another thing that I commonly do, this bass. It's fairly stereo, which I like because of the spreading. But I want to tame that a little bit with a. We can use the direction mixer, and we can make it a little bit more towards the center. And then we can widen our rattle sound with a sample delay. We set that to somewhere like here. And this is actually the same, this plugin with just these two sliders. It's the same as copying this channel and sending one a little bit to the right. So this is what it does. The first is at 0 samples, it's not delayed. And the second is at, in this case, at 11 something samples. Then it pans it like this. So if I don't have a sample delay, I can do this and get the same effect. Now we're getting a very stereo sound. But I do have a sample delay, so I'm not going to do that. And now we need to do a little bit of mixing. And from this point onwards, it's just messing a lot with curves and filter cutoff and all that kind of stuff. I can try my other bass file right here, and I can try to sort of change this one up right here with the new sound. Let's see what that sounds like. And then I can take this metallic thing and I can slow it down at the ending. So here what normally says fade out, you can also choose slow down, and then you choose the amount of time you want it to take to slow down. So I'm gonna say 900 maybe. Let's just go for 1000, and then we can give that a curve, so now this gets a nice round edge. This always sounds nice. I don't know if you can hear that very well, but it just slows down, like it's like a tape recorder that you slide, where you press your finger on the tape when it's running, if you've ever done it. So we can do the same for the bass sound. And we can also do that, but then fade it in or speed it up, just so you can easily hear what it sounds like. This may be a little bit extreme, so let's go for 500. And now let's, I'm not very happy with this filter actually. I'm gonna choose another type. I'm gonna set the resonance higher and maybe the mix a little bit down, because I think it's a little bit too extreme. I like that better. I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of that reverb, so I'm gonna choose a plugin that I hope you have as well, which is the Guitar Rig by Native Instruments, and this one has a plugin and a reverb, and I really love this one. And this is an impulse response reverb, meaning that it will take an audio file and take the room out of that, and you can sort of hear what that room sounds like. So these are actually audio samples that the reverb is extracted from and used on your sound, in this case, or crazy bass sound. And you can also use your own folders or your own samples for that. And you can say select an impulse response folder, and you can search for an audio file on your computer that you like the reverb of, and you can sort of take that reverb or take that same vibe. Anyway, that's what we're gonna do, and we're gonna choose let's choose a big studio, or maybe even bigger, like a cathedral. Bright sounds good. And then we have our dry and our wet here. So fully wet, it sounds like this. All right, and fully dry. We already know that one. So let's modulate this wet control to give it reverb just when we want it, because we're, as well as sound freaks, we're also control freaks, and we want to precisely control the amount of reverb. So there we have our wet control. So now we can leave the sound dry at the beginning, and then fade up the reverb pretty extremely, and then let it go down again. And this is where you can experiment, and I'm totally doing random stuff right here. This is not based on experience or knowledge, just absolutely random. And then at the end, well, that is one thing. At the end, I normally like to give it a little bit more reverb so that the sound fades out nicely. Okay. And from here on out, there's so much stuff that we can do. It's pretty insane. We can. My first instinct would be to make that bass sound a little bit better. I think it's a bit boring or a bit dull. Let's excite it a bit, which is just some distortion. And let's get rid of that click as well by just fading this one in. Bounce that again. I can delete all this stuff. And this one a bit softer. And then a few other ideas I can give you before we wrap this up. One thing you can do is change the balance of the top file. The bass file is in most cases not a very good idea, but we can play around with the stereo thing of the higher sound. Just like that, to give it a little bit more interesting, just a little bit more movement. And for the bass sound, a thing that I like to do, and I'm gonna see if Logic has a plugin for this. What I want is a comb filter. I like the comb filter you see in Massive, and I don't know if Logic has a built-in comb filter. I'm again gonna use my Guitar Rig, I think. Or is there some other thing I can do? Yeah, I know something, because these are free. I have these Melda production plugins, and there are a lot of them, and they're all free, so you can just as easily download this, because that's why I don't want to use a lot of third-party plugins because I want you to be able to do the same thing. But these are actually free. You get this thing saying upgrade please, but that's not really necessary. You can still use all the functions. So I'm going to use a comb filter, and a comb filter is a filter that feeds back the signal. So it takes the signal, in our case our bass sounds, and it plays it through the filter, then delays it a little bit, and then actually plays it back into the filter again. So you get these very extreme feedbacking sound, and I think you might recognize it from the massive comb filter. You get like these metallic sounds. So I'm gonna use that. And just some other options if you don't have this one. Waves has one. It's called Meta Filter, and it has this comb type right there, and you can see that it also looks like a comb. So that's, I guess, why they call it like that. If you have Zebra or Zebrafy, it has a comb filter. There's quite some stuff that has it. It's a very cool filter. I think it's my favorite. So we just modulated that feedback frequency, which is just the same as the cutoff frequency in a low pass filter. This is going to be pretty extreme, but we like that. Just mess around with that for a little bit to get a more extreme bass sound. This tutorial is getting very lengthy. I'm sorry. Right, that's pretty cool. And then the feedback of that filter, that's pretty extreme. Let's modulate that for a little bit. Ooh, that's probably too high. So we've got that. And then we don't want this to be there all the time, so we need to modulate the dry wet to just have the effect when we want it, because we want control. So that's a dry wet, and let's set it like this, and maybe here it can be fully wet. And then maybe at the ending as well, because we have that reverb there, so it would be nice to comb filter the reverb. Oh, I like that. We get sort of this metallic sound. So then together with this one, I think that is pretty cool, guys. I like that. I wanna take down the reverb a little bit, perhaps. So that was this one. Take it easy, reverb. Just like that. On the ending, it can be fairly high. And then I'm gonna use another equalizer after the reverb. Take out some mud. Boost those highs again. Okay, I think we're pretty happy with this. The last thing that I'm gonna do with this, except modulating this one down, is now, of course, it's still two sounds, so we want to make one of this, and we have a bus right here that I might as well call combined sound, and we're gonna send this to another bus. Let's say 31, and 31 pops up right here. Now we can show that in our arrangement window. So now these two sounds, this can be away. These two sounds go to this combined sound bus, and that one goes to this bus. But we're gonna mute this. We're gonna say no output to that one. So now we don't hear anything, and that's good because we want to record our sound and we don't want to hear it twice. So I'm going to create a new audio track, and this one listens to this bus 31. So input bus 31, and then I set the input on to listen. So now if we play the sound, we can hear it again, I think. No, we cannot, but that's fine, because we can record it right here on this audio track. and we can see it there. It looks nice too. That's a nice looking sound. So, and then I'm going to disable the bus, and then it says invalid input, which makes sense. And now we have our sound as one nice audio file. And now we can, for example, throw it in a sampler, and in Logic we can do that by pressing Ctrl E, and then it says, where do you want to create zones from? And then you say, well, I want regions. How do you want to call it? And I want to call it awesome tutorial sound.exs. Alright. And now it's gonna scan, and it's gonna make a nice patch from this in our awesome EXS sampler. And I'm gonna send this to my output. And now if we go to edit, we can see the layer sound here, there on C3, which is fine, but unless we have a melody that is exactly and only playing C3, this is pretty worthless. So I'm gonna extend this to play over a couple of octaves, down and up. Okay, let's see how that sounds. That doesn't sound very well. Oh, there we go. Oh, I think I shouldn't have done that. I messed up by not saving it. I should save it. Try that again. Yes, save. So now we have it in a sampler. We have another filter again to control this. We can change pitch. Now that is cool. We can do some cool stuff with this. I almost want to try to record this and play with the pitch at the same time. Oh, it's doubling it, but that's okay. And then we can bounce this, and this we can do this till the end of our lives, because we can keep improving this sound, and we can keep bouncing it, we can keep throwing it in new samplers, and this is what keeps me busy all day. But I hope this gives you an insight on how to make such sounds, and how to layer them and combine them. And the approach is just taking sounds that are not very similar, because you want to hear a distinction, and make them sound like one. So you can, another thing that we haven't tried is fade out the other sound and fade in the second sound. So we can filter down the first sound and filter up the second sound to make it feel like the same thing. It's sort of living together. And you can give it the same reverb to achieve that effect. You can use gain to achieve that effect. You can use compression, equalization, filtering, stereo widening, a lot of stuff. I think we did a good job. We can be proud of ourselves. So I hope that was useful to you. It was very lengthy. So I'm gonna stop this video right now, and I'll see you another time for a new video. Thanks for watching.